communicate and talk with the King of Glory. There is no greater privilege than to be able to get into his presence and not just commune with him or talk with him, but also to have him talk and to commune with you. So number one thing, prayer is a great privilege. When you understand what it is you talking with the King of Glory. There is no greater privilege. There is no greater honor. There is no greater privilege is the best word I can think of. No greater privilege than to be able to come into the presence of the King of Glory. The next thing I want to talk, well, let me go ahead and give you the scripture, and then I'm going to bring a few points to you dealing with prayer. Once again, I'm coming from the book of 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, verse number 12 says, the eyes of the Lord are over, some scriptures, some translations say upon, for the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. The first part of the verse is mainly what I want to focus on. He says, the eyes of the Lord are upon or over the righteous. That means that God is always watching me. That means that there is never a time in my life where I am not being watched or monitored by God. God is not saying that in a way to make me afraid, but what he's saying to me is just like a loving parent, his eyes are always watching over his children. There is never a time, no matter what the situation may seem like, where the eyes of God are not on you. There's never a time in your life where God's eyes are not on you. You may feel like you're by yourself, but you are not by yourself. You may feel like you are alone. You may feel like you're in a dangerous place, but you are not alone. You are not in a dangerous place, because the eyes of the Lord are always on the righteous. God never takes his eyes off of his children. He never takes his eyes. I don't care how crazy the situation looks. I don't care how bad it feels. God never takes his eyes off of his children. His eyes are always on you. He's like a parent who's watching their child in the pool. He keeps his eyes on you, just in case you get in trouble, just in case you get in danger, just in case something happened that ain't going your way, just in case something pop up that you didn't know about. You didn't know, he knew, but you didn't know about it, and something comes up unaware. His eyes are on you. He does not get caught off guard. He is watching you, waiting for the moment where you need him to step in and deliver you from your troubles. The eyes of the Lord are always upon you, and his ears are open or tuned in to your cry. Let me, as a parent, we know that we have been tuned in to the voices of our child. We know that it can be a room full of children, but if one of our children scream or yell out or say mom or dad, I don't care how many kids are in the room, it's something about the voice of your child that has been connected to your eardrum, so that even in a room full of other children, if your child say mom, if your child say dad, it cuts through all of the other noises and hits your ear, and you spring into action.
Amen.
Because your ear has been tuned to the voice of your child. I know my child's voice. I know when they're in trouble. I know when they're in distress. I know when something is wrong. I know when something is wrong. Sometimes a parent can look at their child's face and know just by the look on their face that something is not right, something is wrong. They can look at your eyes and see that your eyes are droopy or something, you're not feeling well, because they can look at your face. They don't have to ask you any questions. They don't have to get you to fill out no report. They can just look at you, and by looking at you, because they are so familiar with you, because they are so intimate with you through the years of raising you and bringing you up and rearing you and feeding you and protecting you, they have built such a relationship. They know you so well that they can hear it in your voice that you lying. They can hear it in your voice that you're trying to do something sneaky. They can hear it in your voice that something is out of order, because they hear. They hear. I know my child. God says my eyes are always on the righteous, and my ear is tuned in, is dialed in to their cry. I'm talking about prayer today. My ear is tuned in to their cry. When the righteous cry, God says, I hear them. When the righteous speak, God says, I hear them. When the righteous calls on me, he says, I hear them. When the righteous say my name, I hear them. When the righteous open their mouth, I hear them. I don't care what's going on in the land. He says, when the righteous, when my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and turn from their ways, and he says, and seek my face. He says, then will I hear. Because my ear is tuned into them. When they speak, I listen. What a privilege, what an honor to have the ear of God, to have God's attention, so that when you begin to talk, when you begin to speak to God, he is automatically tuned in. No matter where you are, what you're doing, he automatically tunes in to whatever, everything stops, so to speak, and he begins to focus in on what you have to say. He begins to, everything stops and he begins to focus in on you, because he wants to know what you have to say. He wants to know how you feel. He wants to know what's going on in you. Anything that is important to you is important to God. Anything that is a problem to you is a problem to God. Anything that bothers you bothers him. God is concerned about everything that you are concerned about. There is nothing too big or nothing too small. The Bible says be anxious for nothing. But the Bible says be anxious for nothing. Don't worry about nothing. Don't be stressed out about nothing. Don't be overly excited about nothing. Don't be upset about nothing. He says, but with prayer and supplication, he says, let your request be made unto the Lord. He says, whatever it is, don't worry about it. Don't fret over it. He says, come to me and let's talk about it. Come to me and let me know how you feel. Not because he don't know, but because there is a blessing in coming to him to let him know. See, when we come to God, what we're saying to God is that I trust you. When we come to God, what we're saying to God is that I need you. When we come to God, what we're saying to God is that I understand that I can't make it without you. When we come to God, what we're saying to God is that my eyes are set on you. My heart is set on you. My dependency is set on you. The reason why you go to the gas station every now and again is because they have what you need. They have the gas, so you got to go and find. You have to go and search one of them out. You got to go and seek one of them out because they have what you need. God says, I know what you need. Come to me. I have the answer.
Amen. Amen.
Going to God is an act of faith.
Yes.
Right.
Go to somebody.
Going to God is an act of faith. The Bible says no man cometh to the Lord unless he believe that he is God. And he is a rewarder. He says, otherwise you wouldn't even come to me if you didn't believe that I was God and that I was a rewarder of those who diligently seek me.
Amen.
You would not go to somebody if you didn't believe they had what you needed. If you didn't believe they had the money, if you didn't believe they had the resources, if you didn't believe they had the ability to help you, you would not turn to them. The reason why you go to them is because you think they have the ability to help you. You think they have the means. You think they have the resources to help you. And so you go to that person because in your mind you say, I know they can help me. Well, God says nobody would even come to me unless they first believed that I was able to help them. So to turn to God is an act of faith. I'm saying to God that I know you have what I need.
Yes.
Right.
I'm saying to God that I know you are able to help me out of my situation.
Right.
I'm saying to God that no matter how bad this is and how crazy this is, you have the answer. You have the solution. You have what I need. And so because I know you have it, and because I know I am your child, I'm going to turn to you to receive from you what I need.
Amen.
It's an act of faith. It's an act of faith. We turn to God because we know that God has what we need, and we know that he is able and willing to give us what he has. Because if he had it but he wasn't willing to give it, then we would still be in trouble. But we know that he, one, has it, and two, he desires for me to have it. The Bible says he delights in giving us the kingdom. It is God's pleasure to bless us. It is God's pleasure to answer our cry. It is God's pleasure to open up doors. It is God's pleasure to send answers. It is God's pleasure to send us reward. So we turn to him, one, because he has it, but two, because he is well able and willing to give us whatever it is that we need. Let me tell you something about what we're going through right now. Something the Lord shared with me. I'm going to share it with you. Nothing catches by God. Nothing catches God by surprise. It may catch us by surprise, but it did not catch him by surprise. God knew the end at the beginning. Before he made anything, he had already saw everything. and he made everything in line with what he had already saw. The Lord shared this to me, and it blessed my spirit. When God made Adam, when God made the man that he loved so much, that man that he went to talk with him, be with in the cool of the day, God made man, made Adam. And Adam did not have a suitable mate. The Bible says God looked through the world to find him a suitable mate, somebody who would fit him, somebody who would be a part or connected to him and be a blessing to him. And the Bible says that God did not find anybody. And so since God could not find anybody but knew that it was not good for man to be by himself, the Bible says that he took Adam and put Adam to sleep. He put him to sleep. And when he put Adam to sleep, the first man, the first Adam, he put him to sleep. And from the side of the first man, he took the bone that became the woman. He took the bone, he took the bride. Can I say it like that? He took Adam's bride from his side. And from his side, he made someone who was suitable for Adam from his side. From his side, he took his bride from the beginning. He took his bride from his side. Fast forward. The same God in that act gave us a shadow and a type of Jesus. The same God, he gave us a shadow and a type of Jesus. Because from the second Adam, he allowed him to be put to sleep, death. And from the death, from the sleep that he allowed the second Adam to go through, from his side, he brought another bride. He brought another bride by allowing him to be put to sleep. And from his side, he brought a bride. What am I trying to show you? I'm trying to get you to see that even at the beginning of creation, God had already worked everything out and gave us a symbol or a sign of what was to come in the future. I'm trying to get you to understand that it might be a surprise to you, but it was not a surprise to God. He had already worked this thing out. He has worked everything out according to what he saw. You don't have to be afraid because God has already put him to sleep and from his side brought the bride.
Yes, yes.
You don't have to be afraid. You might not understand it. Adam didn't understand it when he was put to sleep, but God knew what he was doing.
Yes.
God knew what he was doing. And so his created man had to trust his creator. He had to trust. He had to trust the creator and say, even though I don't understand, even though I don't know what you're doing, I trust you enough to bring from me, to bring out of this darkness. That's what sleep is. To bring out of this darkness something that is created and designed just for me.
All right.
That's why I tell y'all, even in this season, we're not taking any loss.
Amen.
Because we are the tree.
Amen.
We are the tree
Yes.
that's planted by the rivers of water.
Yes.
Our leaves do not wither, and we will bring forth our fruit in due season.
Yes, God.
When it's time, when our season has arrived, we will bring forth our fruit. We will not suffer loss. We are going to the other side, and we are going to bring forth because we are connected to the water. We are not dependent upon nature. We're not dependent upon the rainfall. We are the tree that is planted by the water.
Yes.
And the water gives us life. The water replenishes us. When there's drought all over the land, it does not affect us because of where we are planted.
Yes, God.
We're planted by the river. Our leaves do not wither.
Thank you, Lord.
We don't suffer loss. We win. Everything is working for my good.
Amen.
You got to declare that every day of your life. Everything is working for my good. All right, listen to this. Praise sets the atmosphere. We're still talking about prayer. Praise sets the atmosphere. When you begin your prayer off with praise, you create an atmosphere or an environment where the Spirit of God can make himself at home. Yes. When you begin with praise, you set an atmosphere where the Spirit of God that lives in you and that is with you at all times can now become comfortable in the presence or in the atmosphere that you are creating. So when you begin to pray and you go into your, or still away, or go into your closet, or go wherever your prayer place is, and you begin to talk to God, the first thing you start to talk about is not how bad life feels or how rough life feels. The first thing you begin to talk about is how big and awesome God is. The first thing, when you go in to pray, the disciples asked Jesus, said, Lord, teach us how to pray. This is how we pray. When we go in to communicate, when we go in to talk with the Lord, the first thing we do is not to tell him how bad life is or how hard it is and how rough it is, but the first thing we do is open our mouths and begin to declare how awesome he is. We begin to tell him how wonderful and how mighty he is. We begin to tell him how powerful he is, how righteous he is, how sovereign he is, how glorious he is. We begin to tell him how he is the creator, how all things were made by him and for him, that he is preeminent over all things, that he is greater than all of the created things, that he is the all-wise God, all wonderful God, that he is great and mighty in his power and his wisdom. And by doing this type of thing, we create an atmosphere where God is able to set himself in. Amen. The Bible says God inhabits. Inhabit means to dwell, to live in, to take up residency in. He says, I dwell, I inhabit in the praises. In other words, when you begin to praise, you set an atmosphere. You make a place for me to come in and to sit down. And that's what we want God to do. We want God to come in and sit down in the midst of whatever we got going on. We want God to come in and sit down in our marriage, sit down in raising our children, sit down in our finances, sit down in the health of our body and the peace of our mind. We want to get God to come in and sit down and dwell in that place. We want God to come in, because wherever God comes in and sits down in, he'll change. Yes. I'm going to say it again. Wherever God comes in and sits down in, he changes it. Anything that comes in contact with God, God changes. He does not allow it to remain the same. Anything God touches, he changes. Anything God touches, he changes. That's the reason why you as a Christian should not be afraid of diseases and sicknesses and viruses, because God has come to live on the inside of you. That means you are not who you used to be. That means you are not what you used to be, because anything God gets into, anything God touches, he changes. The Bible says that Moses went up to the mountain and talked with God, and when Moses came down out of the mountain, his whole head was lit up because he had been in the presence of God. And anything that gets in God's presence is changed by God. Moses couldn't help but to be lit up in his head because he had been in the presence of God. The Bible says when God sat down or put his foot down on the mountain, the Bible says God changed the whole mountain and made the whole mountain holy, because God decided to put his foot on the mountain and told the people, don't let nothing or nobody come to the mountain, because the mountain is now holy. Jesus. The whole mountain. Amen. What made the mountain holy? The mountain didn't do anything to become holy. The mountain didn't do anything to become special. What made the mountain holy was that the God of heaven stepped on it. Yes. And when God stepped on the mountain became holy. It became his. And he changed the very nature of it. The Bible says that the man of God was, the presence of God was so powerful on the man of God that even handkerchiefs were taken away. Pieces of cloth were taken away from his body, and people were healed by the handkerchief. The Bible talks about the man of God being so anointed with the presence of God that his shadow, when it touched people who were laying down on the ground, when his shadow went across them, that demons came out, that sicknesses came out, just because the shadow of the man of God touched the people. I'm trying to get you to understand that when God puts his hands on something, he changes it. He changes the very nature of it. He changes the very construction, the very principle, the very the sales of it. Everything is changed. When God, you got to understand what God has done to you. You are not what you used to be. You are not who you used to be. When God decided to come and live in you, he changed the very nature, the very substance of who you are. You are new. You are a new creation. You are not what you used to be. There's another glory to you now. He has changed you. You're not the same. Anything God touches, he changes. This is why the Bible says when we come to God, the Bible says enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. The Bible teaches us how to approach him. He says, when you come to God, he says, come with him with thanksgiving. Lord, I just want to thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for keeping me in my right mind. Thank you for keeping my children safe. Thank you for keeping my spouse safe. Thank you for the bread that was on the table.